And that's it. It's over. This historic 2020 NBA championship belongs to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Hey guys, welcome back to another timeline video, this time on how the Lakers built their super team. This was actually one of my first ever timeline videos I made right after LeBron joined the Lakers, but since then obviously a lot has changed both for the Lakers and the quality of these videos, so I decided to remake the video. Please let me know what video you guys want to see next after this. I was thinking about making one for the Knicks rebuild, Mavericks from Dirk to Luka, or even something a little different like timeline of the Steph Curry and LeBron James rivalry. Let me know what you guys want to see in the comments below. One final thing, I'm not entirely sure how many of you guys are aware of this, but I actually have a second channel where I upload football timeline videos as well as a third channel for soccer videos. If any of that sounds interesting to you, I'll put the links in the description for you guys to check those out. Please consider subscribing, it really helps support the channel. But anyways, without further ado, let's get straight into this video. So coming into the 2012-2013 season, the Lakers are at a crossroads. After winning the championship in 2010, they had followed up with two dominant regular seasons but poor playoff performances, getting eliminated in the second round twice. Last season, the Lakers realized that they needed another superstar to pair with Kobe and arranged a trade for Chris Paul to come to the Lakers. However, the then commissioner David Stern felt that it wasn't a fair trade and vetoed the move, costing last year's second round exit. On top of that, after the 2011-2012 season, Phil Jackson decided to move on from the Lakers once again and eventually sign on with the Knicks. With all these losses, it seemed like the dominance of the Lakers, which had lasted for over a decade, was finally coming to an end, and the Lakers had to decide whether to keep pushing on or to fully embrace a rebuild. As many expected, Kobe was not prepared to go out quietly and pushed the front office to make a huge splash during the offseason, leading the Lakers into making two blockbuster trades, including a complex 4-team trade to bring all NBA center Dwight Howard to the Lakers.
If you can get Dwight Howard, Steve Nash, and not give up Pau Gasol, you had a very, very good summer, and the Lakers' window is flung right back open.
Yeah, how do you now see them with an aging Spurs team and a younger Oklahoma City team in terms of how they fit out west?
Well, certainly we're going to have to see it all come together, but I mean, I don't know how you couldn't immediately list them as a championship contender. Dwight.
On top of that, the Lakers also decided to add another playmaker in Steve Nash to help Kobe lead this terrifying offense. Kobe was incredibly confident with this new team, believing that Steve Nash would ease some of the offensive strain, and Dwight Howard could eventually become the new face of the Lakers. And many analysts believed in the hype too, seeing the Lakers as title contenders once again after a 2-year break. Despite this hype, the Lakers started off the season on a low note as new head coach Mike Brown tried changing the Lakers' offensive strategy to the Princeton offense. After going 0-8 in the preseason and 1-4 in the regular season, Mike Brown was promptly fired and replaced by Mike D'Antoni. Despite this addition, the Lakers still struggled due to chemistry issues and injuries, and coming into the end of the season, the Lakers needed an almost perfect record to qualify for the playoffs. And this is where Kobe's greatness came in, as he began to play close to 48 minutes a game to close the season. During this late season push, Kobe's stats were out of this world, as the Lakers ended with a 7-1 record to barely qualify for the playoffs.
Ryan, sure he was in bounds. Now they got issues with the clock. Kobe drives. Kobe all the way. Dunks it home. Kobe Bryant, sensational. Everybody, even the Nets fans are on their feet. Look out. And the Lakers lead 82-80. Classic.
Unfortunately, all this playing time took its toll, as in the 80th game of the season, Kobe tore his Achilles, forcing him to sit out for 6 to 8 months. Without Kobe, the Lakers are completely outmatched against the second-seeded Spurs, and despite a strong performance by Pau Gasol, the Lakers are destroyed in every single game as they are swept by the Spurs.
And by the way, here's Pau Gasol. Pau Gasol in the tribute to Pau. And with all the rumors about the future of Pau Gasol, this is a heartfelt ovation from this crowd, appreciating everything he's done for this team. What's left of the...
Entering the next season, expectations were low for the Lakers, as Dwight Howard had left during free agency, Kobe was sidelined until at least December, and Steve Nash had just turned 40 years old, leaving the Lakers with mostly role players who needed to step up and lead the team. And as everyone expected, they were unable to do that, as the Lakers collapsed without any real leader to guide the team. However, there was still some optimism, as on December 8th, Kobe Bryant returned from his injury, looking to boost the Lakers from their mediocre 10-10 record. However, after only 9 days, Kobe fractured his knee, forcing him to sit out for the rest of the season. After losing even the hope that Kobe would return and save the season, the Lakers fell even further, eventually ending with a 27-55 record for the 14th seed in the West.
Returns to the lineup, and then just the other day, a fracture in his left knee, which now the Lakers are saying will keep him out of the lineup for 6 weeks. 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 6 weeks
Following their worst season since 1960, when Elgin Baylor just joined the team, Mike D'Antoni resigned, creating space for former Showtime player Byron Scott to coach the team.
Byron Scott is a local guy. He grew up in Inglewood. He started his playing career with the Lakers back in 1983, and he knows what Showtime means. He won 3 NBA titles with the purple and gold, but after 10 seasons with the Lakers, he left and returned again for his final season as a player back in 1996.
The 2014 offseason was once again disappointing, as the Lakers had hoped to go big during free agency and sign either Carmelo Anthony or LeBron James, but ended up missing out on both of them, leaving the Lakers once again with a mediocre team.
With the 7th pick in the 2014 NBA Draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Julius Randle from the University of Kentucky.
Heading into the next season, expectations were low as Kobe was clearly getting older and there was a lack of any real playmaker to pick up the mantle on their declining offense. And just as everyone expected, the Lakers followed up their all-time terrible season with a worse season, ending with only 21 wins. What made matters even worse was that in the first game of the season, first-round pick Julius Randle injured his right leg, ending his season. Then later on in the year, Kobe injured his shoulder, causing him also to miss the rest of the season. Overall, it was becoming very clear that the Lakers' attempted jumpstart to their dynasty didn't work, and they needed to start rebuilding the team ASAP.
Yep, twisted that ankle. Yep. Well, we at first thought the injury to Julius Randle was just a twisted ankle, but is obviously much more. Gary V.
With the 2nd pick in the 2015 NBA Draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Deangelo Russell from The Ohio State University.
Heading into the next season, the Lakers are clearly at their lowest point in franchise history, but they did have some young talent that they could grow into a decent team in the near future, including Deangelo Russell, Julius Randle, and Nick Young. Despite this young talent, we were clearly coming to the end of the long Kobe dynasty, as it was expected that this would be Kobe's last ever season, a fear which he confirmed later on in November. The rest of the season became Kobe's farewell tour, as the Lakers were clearly in no position to even attempt to contend for the playoffs. The Lakers ended up finishing the season with a franchise-worst 17 wins, beating last year's record for worst season.
5-time NBA champion, and he is the Black Mamba, all the way from Loudville to the floor, with the number 24, the one, the only, Kobe!
Even with their terrible record, this season ended up being one of the most memorable ones, as Kobe put on an incredible show in his last ever NBA game, where he scored 60 points along with 4 assists and rebounds to finish off an incredible NBA career. Rest in peace.
Great. And on his final night, it's one last glimpse of greatness.
With the 2nd pick in the 2016 NBA Draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Brandon Ingram from Duke University.
After Kobe's retirement, the Lakers decided to completely rebuild the front office, hiring Rob Pelinka, Magic Johnson, and Luke Walton to lead the new era Lakers. Unfortunately, before the new front office arrived in February, the old front office, in an attempt to enter win now mode and keep their jobs, made terrible free agent contract moves, signing Mozgov to a $64 million deal, Deng to a $72 million deal, and Clarkson to a $50 million deal, a mistake that the Lakers would spend the next few years cleaning up. Entering this next season, expectations are low as the team was still very young and not yet at that contending point. However, there's still some cautious optimism that behind Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka, a new Lakers dynasty could be brewing. And while the Lakers did end up losing 56 games this season, they still did manage to surpass last year's win total, and there was this new young energy in the building that the Lakers hadn't seen in years.
With 8 to play. Out to Nick Young for the lead. He's got it! The Lakers lead by 2 as Nick Young drains it.
That's a good trade, Magic Johnson, Rob Pelinka. That's a good trade right there. So they got rid of that awful contract.
Right.
They now have, there were always rumors or reports that they wanted a third first-round pick. So now they have 3 first-rounders to play with. They moved Deangelo Russell, so no drama there. And getting Brook Lopez back from Brooklyn?
That's pretty good.
With the second pick in the 2017 NBA Draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Lonzo Ball from UCLA.
Entering the 2017 season, expectations were at an all-time high as hype was exploding around UCLA rookie Lonzo Ball. Lonzo's meteoric rise to stardom was a combination of both his father LeVar Ball's outrageous statements that his son was better than Steph Curry and that he himself could beat Michael Jordan, but also because Magic Johnson had claimed that Lonzo had the highest basketball IQ for any point guard, and also because Lonzo had dominated early in the summer league, setting league records for his play. Overall, in one offseason, Lonzo had become the most hyped rookie prospect since LeBron James in 2003, and suddenly the reasonable expectations for a young growing team were out the window, as fans expected Lonzo to lead the Lakers into the playoff picture like a young LeBron did. And as many of you could have guessed, Lonzo failed to live up to this insane hype, as the Lakers failed to qualify for the playoffs. However, from a reasonable perspective, the season was actually a decent success, as the Lakers' record improved once again, and their young core looked incredibly promising for future years.
It has it in all kinds of trouble. Finds Lonzo for 3. In there! Lonzo and the Lakers. On top, working Murray. Lonzo for 3.
Bam.
Yes! Lonzo is feeling it, and so are the Lakers.
NBA Draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Moritz Wagner from Berlin and the University of Michigan.
After an impressive offseason of dumping big contracts and useless players, the Lakers managed to create cap space to sign LeBron James to a 4-year, $154 million deal, instantly making the Lakers contenders. Even after signing LeBron, the Lakers still had space to trade for another superstar, and they began to enter trade talks for Kawhi Leonard. However, in the end, Kawhi went to the Raptors, and the Lakers decided to sign role players to surround LeBron, including KCP, Rajon Rondo, Lance Stevenson, JaVale McGee, and Tyson Chandler. Many fans were confused about Magic's direction with his new team, as it didn't seem strong enough to beat the Curry, KD, Clay Warriors. But regardless, the Lakers still looked to be contenders, with the expectation that LeBron will carry this Lakers team like he did with the Cavs last year. ESPN predicted that the Lakers will end up as the 4th seed, and multiple analysts had the Lakers going anywhere from the 1st to 6th seed in the West. Unfortunately, midway through the season, when the Lakers had a 20-14 record, LeBron injured his groin, forcing him to miss time as the Lakers crumbled without their leader. They ended up finishing with only 2 more wins than last year, missing the playoffs. Overall, it was very clear that the Lakers needed another playmaker to play alongside LeBron if they wanted to compete with the top-level teams.
James holding his left leg, and obviously his groin area as well, shaken up on that play. He may have gotten hurt on the previous.
After the season, in a surprise move, Magic Johnson decided to step down from his role in the front office after his disappointing season.
I'm not gonna be here.
In addition to losing Magic, the Lakers decided to move on from Luke Walton and instead signed Frank Vogel to lead the Lakers into the next season. But their biggest offseason move was their dramatic trade to bring Anthony Davis to the Lakers in exchange for most of their young depth and future picks. With LeBron James and Anthony Davis, everyone was certain that the Lakers are now title contenders, and last year's tragedy would not happen again. All of a sudden, in only 2 off seasons, the Lakers are back to being in a Kobe-era super team. And this super team dominated, as they finished the season with a 56-17 record, good for the 1st seed in the West, qualifying for the playoffs for the first time since the Kobe Bryant era.
Shoot 38% from downtown. Here comes LBJ! Look out!
Oh, the crowd on their feet. That's what they came to see. If nothing else,
look at these things by Rondo. The fake all the way to score. As LeBron flew by, pretending like he was trying to block it.
In the playoffs, the Lakers continued their dominant streak, and despite the Blazers stealing Game 1, the Lakers took control in Game 2, easily beating the Blazers for the next 4 games straight to advance to the next round.
Quinn Cook will dribble it out, and the Los Angeles Lakers in 5.
The second round followed the same pattern as the first, as the Lakers dropped Game 1 after an impressive 36-point performance from James Harden. All analysts suddenly switched sides, saying that the Rockets were going to end up beating the Lakers, but once again LeBron and Davis picked it up and wanted to dominate the next 4 games straight to another victory.
Should the Lakers just call it a season and go home?
So you don't want to give me my credit for picking the score? You don't want to give me that credit? You don't want to tell?
You said it'd be...
Stood his ground. LeBron punches that into the family section. Coming in a little hot. Westbrook on LeBron. LeBron ate it up at the rim. Wow, he got some bounce in those 35-year-old legs. And through Covington, count it. Weight room time. LeBron James.
The conference finals against the Nuggets was the Lakers' toughest series, as every game was razor close entering the fourth quarter. And while the scores don't really reflect it, each game came down to the wire, including an Anthony Davis game winner in Game 2. Despite these close battles, the Lakers core had too much experience in fourth quarter playoff games, and went on to win the series in only 5 games.
Trying to disrupt Rondo, he puts it in. Here's Davis, 4-3 in the win. Oh, it's good! Anthony Davis has won it for the Lakers!
In their finals matchup against the Heat, the Lakers started off the season hot, going up 2-0 on the underdog Heat. The Heat did manage to bounce back in Game 3 with a statement victory, before both teams traded victories as the Lakers won their next game and dropped Game 5. Heading into Game 6 up 3-2, LeBron dominated once again to win the series and claim his 4th ring and Finals MVP.
And that's it, it's over. This historic 2020 NBA championship belongs to the Los Angeles Lakers.
After last year's championship, the Lakers have only gotten better, adding more depth and experience to the championship team. However, while the Lakers have an objectively better squad than last year, we have seen the growth of more super teams that will compete against the Lakers this year, as the Nets and Clippers both look to dethrone the reigning king.
Play a couple positions on that front line for the Clippers. Here come the Lakers and Anthony Davis. Working on it, takes it inside, and he puts it down.
Overall, the Lakers built their super team through smart free agency moves and through building young, solid, tradable assets, which they used to get Anthony Davis and unload terrible contracts. This Lakers team is one of the best in the league, and looks like they're primed to run it back once again. However, this time it looks like it's going to be much tougher. Let me know if you think that the Lakers will go back-to-back this year. But that's going to be all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching as always. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.